Today I'm going to be sharing with you some tips that have helped me get the most juiciness, the most bang for my buck out of my reverse lunges. Especially because I've just recently started adding them into my leg days and they've been tearing my shit up. Like, the mind muscle connection for me is through the roof, through the whole lower body, bro. I swear to God, I can feel like my muscles tearing when I do them. So I feel like now is a better time than any to show you how I do it. Hopefully you can take away some tips that serve you. Please feel free to leave behind what doesn't. Not every tip is going to work for everyone. So before I get into the actual technique stuff, let's first talk about the difference between a reverse lunge and a split squat, because I've noticed that a lot of people don't necessarily know what the difference between them is. So with a reverse lunge, you start with your legs together at the top of the movement, and then you take a step back and lunge downwards. Whereas with the split squat, your legs stay split. So one, you start with your legs closed, you're stepping your legs back and forth as you go, and then the split squat, your legs are static, moving up and down. Does that make sense? Here's a pro tip. If you're a super duper beginner, bro, even just body weight, single leg stuff is going to be really challenging. So I recommend you start with a split squat. That way you can be static and then you can just focus on moving up and down. You can even try holding onto something so you don't have to worry about balance. And then as you get stronger, you can start incorporating like walking forward lunges. You can start incorporating things like reverse lunges. So start slow and work your way up. In this video, I will be addressing how to do reverse lunges to be more quad dominant versus glute dominant, like how you can bias more of your quads versus how you can bias more of your glutes. But that's going to be closer till the end, so stick around for that. But let's get into the technical stuff, okay? Let's start with the feet. Let's start from the ground up. So when it comes to your feet, I notice a lot of my clients, when they're doing reverse lunges, they're kind of like wobbly in their feet and they're not pressing through the whole foot. They're like pressing more on the outside of the foot, or they're pressing too much on the inside of the foot. What I want you to think about is the 3 points of contact in the foot: the pinky toe, the base of the pinky toe, the base of the big toe, and the heel. I want you to think about pressing through the entire foot. It's physics, right? The greater the surface area that you're pushing through, the more power you will be able to produce, the more force. Basically, bitch, the stronger you're going to be. I also see a lot of people pick their heel up. Think about driving through the heel, and you might have to adjust like the placement of your hips or how far back you're lunging so that you can keep your heel down, because not everyone has the same ankle mobility, okay? And remember, it's the front leg that's doing the work. Sometimes I'll get clients that they'll do a reverse lunge or they'll do a split squat and they feel a pull on their quad of the back leg. And that's because they're trying too hard to push out of the back leg. Keep your body weight primarily in the front foot. This is supposed to be a unilateral movement. Technically, it's a pseudo unilateral because whether we like it or not, the back leg is going to be helping a little bit, but it's the front leg where you should be feeling it. That's the leg that we're focusing on. That's the working leg. Okay, now that we talked about our feet and our ankles, let's talk about our hips. A common mistake that I see with the reverse lunge is like trying to like snake your way up. What is happening is whenever we start getting tired, our body likes to resort to the path of least resistance. And that's kind of when we start seeing form breakdown. But when form starts to break down, we can often open ourselves up to a more likely chance of injury. And I've noticed that the movement just isn't as effective. I'm not feeling the burn and the pain and the intention in the right place. So when I'm doing a reverse lunge, my goal isn't to tap my back knee on the floor at all costs, right? My goal is to sink as deep into my hip as possible. And you'll know when you're doing it right when your low back stays neutral. You're not transferring your body weight into your low back. You're not arching your low back to try and get yourself up. So keep your pelvis not tucked, but keep it neutral. So you're not sticking your pelvis out. You're not rounding it too far under. You're keeping it neutral, and you're thinking about moving through the hip joint the knee joint and the ankle joint. You're not thinking about arching through your low back. The movement is all in the legs, okay? Next tip, avoid using momentum to kind of like kick yourself out of the hole. Like avoid kicking out of the lunge with your back leg, because that's kind of defeating the purpose of the movement. The whole purpose of the movement is to train one leg at a time. Also, stop banging your knee, right? That's another way of like using momentum to propel you up. Gently, I like to think about gently kissing the floor with my back knee. It's just ever so slightly touching. So you're not resting at the bottom. You're not banging out of the bottom. You'll notice how much more you have to control the movement when you gently kiss the floor with your back knee. And that segues us into the next tip. Focus on performing this movement slow, controlled, with intention, and focusing your mind on where you're trying to feel it. Oftentimes when I'm working with a beginner, I'll ask them, hey, where are you feeling this exercise? And they'll be like, girl, I don't know. I was just doing it. I was just going through the motion. No, the whole point of strength training is to feel the muscles that you're trying to target. That's how you know you're doing it right? So take your time with each rep, especially control the eccentric, control the down portion. Slow, controlled, gently kiss the floor with your back knee and push through the front leg to come up. Think about it this way. You control the weight. The weight doesn't control you. Okay, guys, so that was all of the technical stuff. We covered the basics. Now let's talk about modifications. Let's talk about what we're all here for. How do you target lunges so you feel it more in your glutes versus your quads and vice versa? So to feel the lunge more in your quads, okay, you're gonna take a more upright angle of your torso so you're standing more upright. You're gonna focus on pushing your knee as far forward over your toes while keeping your heel on the ground. I'm talking about creating more of a bend in the knee. So the purpose of the quad muscle in like human anatomy is to extend the knee. So the more bend you can create in the knee, the more extension you can practice. So any movement that you do, whether it's squats, leg press, lunges, split squats, when you opt for more of a bend in the knee, a more exaggerated bend in the knee, you are emphasizing growing your quads. As for the glutes, instead of an upright torso, you're going to maintain a more bent over torso, and there's going to be less bend in the knee and more bend in the hip, because the glutes are partially responsible for hip extension. So when you're practicing hip flexion, then you can practice more hip extension when you're coming up. Does that make sense? And when you do it, when you're practicing at home or in the gym, you're going to feel the weight of the exercise immediately shift from glutes to quads or from quads to glutes just by modifying these two things. So there's one modification. Another cool modification is to elevate the front foot. By elevating the front foot, you're having to access a deeper range of motion. So you're getting a deeper stretch in the quads and in the glutes. And the most recent literature is showing how spending time in that stretched position of any exercise can really tear the muscle fibers apart, can really cause damage to the muscle, so that we can then grow the muscle back bigger and better. So I personally lately have been doing a front foot elevated reverse lunge, and that shit has been brutal. You will not be able to push as much weight as you're used to, but I don't know, dude, there's just something about that mind muscle, the deep like tearing that I feel, like the deep disruption that I feel in my muscle when I choose to elevate my foot. Obviously, this is more of like a, not advanced, but slightly more advanced than just doing it off the floor. So if you're a beginner and you can't yet access the front foot elevation, that's okay. You'll get there eventually. And then finally, the last modification is just bringing to your attention that you can load lunges. You can load any free weight exercise with many modalities. So you could do a reverse lunge with dumbbells. What hand you choose to hold the dumbbell in is up to you. Whatever helps you feel the target muscle that you're trying to target. You can do it with a barbell, a Smith machine. You can use like a shrug machine. You can use cables. Yeah, there's really more than one way to load the movement. You might notice that doing it on the Smith machine versus barbells, maybe you feel a better connection. That's for you to decide how you feel the exercise best. Recently, I've been loving just doing it with a plain old dumbbell and just holding on to something for balance. Wait, did I say that was the last modification? Because I have a couple more. Another modification, if you're struggling to hold the dumbbell in your hand because you're getting so bloody strong, you can always just use a strap, a lifting strap, so you can hold like heavier 50-pound plus dumbbells that keep sliding out of your hand. Because what's the point of doing an exercise if you're failing not because the muscle that you're trying to target is failing, you're failing because your wrist strength, your forearm strength is failing. So that's an option as well. And then the final modification is holding on to something for balance. This is great for beginners, but also for like intermediate and advanced as well. I really like holding something for balance. It makes me feel more stable, and because I feel more stable, I'm able to produce more force. I'm stronger, I'm pushing more weight, and in theory, that's going to help me build more muscle. That's what I believe. You can choose to hold on to or not. Lately, that's exactly what I've been doing. Front foot elevated, dumbbell reverse lunge while holding on to something for balance. That's been my bread and butter lately, and it's been tearing my shit up. Okay, great. We made it to the end of the video. To wrap everything up, if you really truly want to build muscle, none of these tips and techniques are going to mean anything if you don't know how to train hard enough. So your goal with any exercise in the gym is to train 2 to 3 reps shy of failure. Train hard to ensure that you're actually challenging the muscles to grow. And if you're unsure how to train hard, just know that that's a skill that you learn with time. It's really like a mental muscle that you're growing. And you can also keep training notes like I keep. I've shown on my channel a couple times how I keep my training notes, but the goal is with time to lift more weight, to get stronger with time. So I keep track of every set, rep, every weight that I use. Like I don't leave anything out, because even just doing one more rep than last time is a sign that you got stronger, is a sign of progressive overload. So yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and comment down below to let me know. If you'd like to see more videos from me, feel free to subscribe and click that little notification bell so you never miss another video. And that's all I have to say for today. I'll see you in the next one.